London, 1888. The gaslights flicker. The fog clings to your coat like a second skin. You can't see more than a few steps ahead. Somewhere, just beyond the mist, you hear it. A scream. Then silence. In the slums of Whitechapel, bodies begin to appear, mutilated, butchered, organs missing, and no one sees the killer. No one hears him come or go. He's not just a man, he's a shadow with a blade, a ghost in the alleys, a name scrawled in blood. Jack the Ripper. London in 1888 was a city of extremes. The West End shimmered with gaslit opulence, opera houses, and tailored suits. But the East End was different. In Whitechapel, the streets stank of rot and urine. More than 60,000 people were packed into this pocket of London. Many lived 8 to a room, if they were lucky. The rest slept on straw in lodging houses or on the cobbles themselves. Prostitution wasn't a profession here. It was survival. There were 62 brothels in Whitechapel. More than 1,200 women were listed as sex workers in police records. They walked the streets with gin on their breath, not for pleasure, but to drown the misery, to numb the cold, to forget what they had to do to earn just 4 pence for a bed. And among them, a killer was watching. Mary Ann Nichols, August 31st, 1888. It began quietly. Just after 3:40 a.m. on Bucks Row, now known as Durwood Street, a carman named Charles Cross spotted what he thought was a tarpaulin on the pavement. But as he approached, the shape came into focus. It was a woman, lying on her back, skirts raised. Her name was Mary Ann Nichols. 43 years old, mother of 5, drunk the night before, turned away from her lodging house for lack of payment. She said, "I'll get my DOS money somehow." And she did, but not the way she planned. Her throat had been slashed, twice, deep and clean, so deep it nearly took her head off. When the police lifted her clothes, they discovered more. 5 deep incisions to her abdomen, a savage mutilation, but oddly controlled. Not random frenzy, but precise anatomical violence. This wasn't a robbery. Her few coins remained untouched. This was personal, calculated, almost surgical. The coroner later said the killer used extraordinary anatomical skill. But Mary Ann wouldn't be the last. 8 days later, around 6 a.m., a woman named Elizabeth Long saw a man talking with Annie Chapman outside 29 Hanbury Street. She heard him say, "Will you?" Annie replied, "Yes." Less than 30 minutes later, a man named John Davis found her body in the backyard. Her throat was cut so violently it reached the spine. Her abdomen was slashed open, intestines placed over her shoulder, and one organ was missing, her uterus. This wasn't passion, this was ritual. And now the police knew Whitechapel had a killer, a methodical one, and he wasn't finished. By the second murder, the press erupted. Papers like The Star and The Times printed gruesome details. They gave him a name, the Whitechapel Fiend. But that would change soon. The East End trembled. Citizens formed vigilante groups. Women refused to go out after dark. Police presence doubled, but with no real leads. Scotland Yard launched an investigation led by Inspector Frederick Aberline. He was smart, seasoned, and cautious, but he was hunting a ghost. Witnesses were unreliable. Descriptions varied. Dark coat, felt hat, moustache. Half the men in London fit the profile. And then, the letters began arriving. Blood-red ink, mocking words, and a name scrawled at the bottom. In the early hours of September 30th, the Ripper struck again. But this time, he didn't just kill, he played. he taunted. He showed how easily he could slip between the cracks. 2 murders, 2 women, 1 night. It began just before 1 a.m. A woman named Elizabeth Stride was found in Dutfield's yard, throat slashed, 1 clean cut, but no further mutilation. Why? A theory quickly emerged. The killer was interrupted. A man named Louis Diemschutz, a local club steward, had entered the yard with his cart. He claimed his horse shied away from something in the dark. That something was Elizabeth's body. The Ripper hadn't finished. He vanished into the night, unsatisfied, and that made him angry, because just 45 minutes later, another body was found. This time, he finished the job. Catherine Eddowes, September 30th, 1888. At 1:44 a.m., less than a mile away in Mitre Square, Police Constable Edward Watkins came across a gruesome sight. A woman lay on her back, face mutilated, nose slashed, eyelids cut, throat severed, and her kidney and womb were removed. This was Catherine Eddowes. She had been arrested just a few hours earlier for public drunkenness and released at 1 a.m. By 1:44, she was butchered. Next to her body, a piece of her apron was missing. That missing cloth would turn up shortly. At 2:55 a.m., it was discovered in a nearby alley, Goulston Street. It had been used to wipe the blood from the killer's hands. Above it, written in chalk, were the haunting words, "The Jews are the men that will not be blamed for nothing." A cryptic message. Anti-Semitic, a distraction, a clue. We still don't know. Police Superintendent Charles Warren ordered the message erased immediately, fearing riots. Some believe that act destroyed the Ripper's only message to the world. And then came the letters. Over 600 letters were sent to the police, newspapers, and officials during the Ripper scare. Most were hoaxes, but 3 stand apart. Dear Boss, September 25th, 1888. Received by the Central News Agency, postmarked 2 days before the double murder. It read, "Dear Boss, I keep on hearing the police have caught me, but they won't fix me just yet. I am down on whores, and I shan't quit ripping them till I do get buckled. The next job I do, I shall clip the lady's ears off and send to the police. Yours truly, Jack the Ripper." And just like that, the killer had a name. Jack the Ripper. The public ate it up. The press printed it in full. The myth was born. Saucy Jackie, postcard. Sent October 1st, the day after the double murders. It reads, "Double event this time. Number 1 squealed a bit. Couldn't finish straight off. Ha, not the time to get ears for police. Thanks for keeping last letter back till I got to work again. Jack the Ripper." The postcard referenced both murders, before details had been made public. Coincidence? Or was Jack watching? From Hell. Letter, October 16th, 1888. This letter came with a small box. Inside, half a human kidney. The letter reads, "From Hell. Mr. Lusk, saw I send you half the kidney I took from one woman. T'other piece I fried and ate it. Catch me when you can, Mr. Lusk." It was addressed to George Lusk, head of the local vigilante group. The handwriting was crude, the spelling worse, but the kidney matched Catherine Eddowes' missing organ in condition and side. Was it truly from the killer, or just another sick prank? To this day, experts are divided. One thing was now clear. Jack the Ripper wasn't just slicing throats. He was removing organs with speed and skill, often in near total darkness. Coroners suggested the killer had anatomical knowledge. Some said he was a surgeon, others a butcher, maybe a mortuary assistant. Theories spread like wildfire. He struck only on weekends. Was he employed during the week? He removed specific organs. Was he fulfilling an order for black market anatomy? He escaped every scene unseen. Was he a member of the police? As the city panicked, the suspect list grew. The fifth victim, Mary Jane Kelly, November 9th, 1888. At 13, Miller's Court, the Ripper reached his crescendo. Mary Jane Kelly was just 25, youngest of the victims, a sex worker, lived alone in a single room off Dorset Street. At 10:45 a.m., her landlord sent his assistant to collect overdue rent. He peered through the grimy window and stepped back in horror. The room was painted in blood. Mary's face was unrecognizable. Her heart was missing. Her breasts, organs, even her thighs had been removed. Her skin was flayed from her legs. Her abdomen laid open like a medical exhibit. This was not haste. This was the work of someone with time, privacy, and hatred. Some believe Mary Jane was the Ripper's final kill. Others think she was his ultimate target all along. By now, criminal profiling was emerging as a tool, but it was primitive. A man named Dr. Thomas Bond became one of the first to profile a serial killer in modern history. He described the Ripper as a solitary male physically strong, possibly with a medical background, likely between 28 and 40 years old, sexually impotent, using mutilation as substitute for sexual satisfaction, driven by revenge or misogyny, possibly due to trauma or disease. Dr. Bond also noted that the Ripper's skill increased with each murder, until Mary Jane Kelly, where he unleashed everything. And then, he vanished. A city searches for a ghost. The murders ended, but the fear didn't. Scotland Yard scoured hospitals, butcher shops, boarding houses. Dozens were questioned. Hundreds watched. Thousands speculated. Several key suspects emerged. Montague John Druitt, a barrister and schoolteacher. He died by suicide shortly after the last murder, found drowned in the Thames. Some believe he was mentally unstable. His own family may have suspected him. Aaron Kosminski, a Polish Jewish immigrant diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. He hated women, feared being touched, was institutionalized years later. In 2014, DNA testing of a shawl linked to a Ripper victim claimed to tie Kosminski to the murders. But the evidence was contaminated, and many experts dismissed the result. Francis Tumblety, an American quack doctor, arrested for gross indecency, he fled to the US. He was known to collect uteruses in jars. Coincidence? Walter Sickert, a famous artist. Some modern theorists claim he painted clues into his work. Patricia Cornwell spent millions investigating him, but there's no solid link. But none were ever charged. The Ripper evaporated into history. After the November 9th murder of Mary Jane Kelly, the killings stopped. No more mutilated bodies, no more letters, no more blood on cobblestones. Just silence. The city breathed a cautious sigh of relief, but it wasn't peace, it was confusion. Why did he stop? Did Jack the Ripper die? Was he jailed for another crime, committed to an asylum? Did he leave the country, or simply lose interest? Police records from the time show dozens of suspects were followed, interrogated, and surveilled, yet none were definitively linked to the murders. Theories exploded. Some believed the Ripper was aristocracy, protected. Others said he fled to America, continuing his murders under a new name. Some whispered that he was already dead by the time Mary Jane Kelly was found. Inspector Aberline, who led much of the case, retired in quiet frustration. He never publicly declared who he believed the killer was, but privately, he suspected Montague Druitt. Scotland Yard closed the file. The terror faded, but the myth had only begun. What remains in the dark, Jack? The Ripper didn't just kill 5 women. He killed certainty. He murdered truth. He showed how fragile order is, how easily one person could terrorize an entire city and vanish without a trace. For more than a century, artists, writers, filmmakers, and conspiracy theorists have pored over the details. Even Sherlock Holmes' creator Arthur Conan Doyle weighed in, suggesting the killer might have been a woman in disguise. Theories range from the Masonic Order to British royalty, to time travelers, to ritual sacrifice. There's even a theory that Jack the Ripper was more than one person, or part of a cover-up by the police themselves. But there's one truth that cuts through the fog. The murders of Whitechapel, though committed in darkness, shone a bright light on the forgotten. The poor, the abused, the voiceless. Mary Ann Nichols, Annie Chapman, Elizabeth Stride, Catherine Eddowes, Mary Jane Kelly. 5 women. They had names, they had lives, and for more than a century, their killer's name became more famous than theirs. It shouldn't have. In recent years, modern technology has reopened the case. DNA evidence on a shore supposedly linked to Catherine Eddowes pointed to Aaron Kosminski. The analysis came from mitochondrial DNA, not unique to one person. It could match thousands. The results were also criticized for contamination. Others have tried handwriting analysis, matching the letters to various suspects. Still inconclusive. Some researchers are using facial recognition on old photos or AI algorithms to analyze the psychology behind the letters and murders. And yet, every year, more books are written, more YouTube videos made, more documentaries aired, but still, no name. The story of Jack the Ripper is not about identity, it's about obsession. He was the first modern serial killer to be fed into the machine of mass media. Newspapers monetized the fear. The public ate it up. Even today, Ripper tourism brings thousands to London each year. There are Jack the Ripper museums, walking tours, escape rooms. But this isn't a game. It was never a game. It was murder. It was pain. It was the darkest part of human nature, masked in mist and mystery. Somewhere out there, the Ripper's name may still be written in an old, forgotten file, a misplaced photograph, a diary page never read, a word whispered on a deathbed. But for now, he remains in the fog, in the silence, in the shadows between gaslight and gutter, and maybe that's where monsters like him belong. This has been Vault 404. You've just explored Case 002. The Butcher of Whitechapel. If you're still here, still breathing a little faster than usual, you're one of us. Don't forget to lock your door.